Hello and welcome to lesson 1-6. We're talking about describing pairs of angles. So some big concepts that we've been doing in chapter 1 is defining points, lines, and planes, and then how to name them, making sure that points are always capital letters. Lines have capital letters, and then above you have a mark with two arrows. Rays, capital letter, make sure you name that end point first and the arrow pointing to the right. Planes need 3 capital letters, no line above it, no commas between, so you write plane, A, B, C. And there's different ways to name some of this stuff. So that's some of the stuff that we've been doing so far. We've been talking about segment addition, where when we have segment A and you have a point between and then C, we have AB plus BC equals AC, and you cannot assume that because B is between A and C that it is not the midpoint. You cannot assume that AB is congruent to BC unless they give you some markings that tell you they are. Okay, and then we went on and we talked about angles and how we name angles. And so we talked about bisectors. And so if this is marked with a single mark and a single mark, we know that angle 1 plus angle 2 is going to equal the big angle, let's just call it TOK, is going to be equal to angle TOK. Now, that's using segment addition. Now, because in this one, we do have a bisector, we can say that the measure of angle 1 is equal to the measure of angle 2, simply because we do know that this is an angle bisector. And another thing we talked about yesterday is if we have a right angle mark in here, we know that angle 4 plus 5, so the measure of angle 4 plus the measure of angle 5 is going to be equal to 90 degrees because we know that this is a 90-degree angle. And then the last thing we talked about yesterday is if we have a straight angle, JKL, and then we have something in between, now we can say angle 7 plus angle 8 must equal 180 degrees because that is a straight angle. All right, going on to today, we're going to add to all of this stuff, and now we're going to be talking about some new things. So you might want to, when I'm done going through all of these, pause the video so that you can get all of this in your notes. So make sure you have the title from the back screen, and then in your notes, make sure you have all of these pairs of angles in here. So if you need to at the end, make sure you stop the video so that you can get it in here. All right, what are adjacent angles? Well, what does adjacent mean? Adjacent means they're right next to each other. So what's happened is the angles are going to have a common vertex, but no other shared points. So the two angles that are in the same plane, they share a common vertex and a common side, but no common interior points. So if I draw something and we put some letters or some different things in here, we've got A, B, and we're just going to put this in here so that we've got C and D. If you look, all of these angles, whether I'm talking about angle 1, angle 2, or the big angle A, B, C, adjacent angles are going to share a common vertex and they're going to share a side. So they can share angle 1 and angle 2 are adjacent angles. They share the common side of BD. They have a common vertex and no other points in common. Okay, my second question is angle A, B, C, and angle 2, are they adjacent? Yes or no? Are those adjacent? Yes or no? So angle ABC and angle 2 both have a common vertex of B. They share a common side. BC is in both of those angles, so they share a common side. But how about this point right here? Is that point in the interior of angle 2? Is it in the interior of angle ABC? And the answer to that question is yes to both of those. And so that's why these are not considered adjacent, because it says no common interior points, and these share a common interior point. So not adjacent. All right, complementary angles. You guys probably know this from some previous knowledge. And complementary angles are going to be two angles whose sum is 90 degrees. Two angles that add together to be 90. Supplementary are two angles that add up to be 180 degrees. Again, stop it at the end or when you need to get them written down. All right, vertical angles. Now here's the definition, but I'm going to do a diagram at the end that usually helps students understand it a little better. So it's two non-adjacent angles formed by two intersecting lines. So let's get these two intersecting lines drawn here for you. Two intersecting lines. Now we have angles 1, 2, 3, and 4. And they say two non-adjacent, so angles that are not adjacent. So for talking about 2, angle 3 is adjacent to it, angle 1 is adjacent to it. So non-adjacent would be angle 4. So 2 and 4 are considered to be vertical angles. And one thing we know about vertical angles is that their angles are congruent. So their measures are congruent. Okay, that's a big thing. We're going to use that all year long. That vertical angles, their measures are congruent. All right, linear pair. So to be a linear pair, they're actually going to have a couple different properties here. So to be a linear pair, they are adjacent angles that form a straight line. So they're adjacent and supplementary. So they must be adjacent, they must share a common side, and they form a straight line. And then pair is the other thing, pair. So it's two angles that are adjacent that form a straight line. All right, name only a pair of angles that are adjacent. So if you look at angles 5 and 7, they are adjacent. Angle 5 and angle 7 are adjacent. So when they mean only adjacent, if you said 8 and 6, 8 and 6 are adjacent, but are they also supplementary and a linear pair? That's why they don't want that for number 1. They just want just pairs that are adjacent. So you could say angle RPS and angle 7. They are adjacent. Or RPS and angle 8. Those are adjacent. All right, linear pair. So I just gave you an example of a linear pair. A linear pair would be, the easy pair would be angle 8 and angle 6. They form this straight line, and it's two of them that add together to make that straight line. Now, you could also say angle 8 and angle RPT. Or you could say angle 7 and angle SPQ. Okay, those are all different linear pairs. Now vertical angles, so we have to have where two lines are crossing, and then across they are congruent. So angle 8 and angle 5 are a vertical pair. And then we have angle 6 is vertical to RPT. RPT. Supplementary are going to be two angles that add up to be 180 degrees. So you could say 8 and 6, they are also a linear pair. And you could say 8 and then this angle right here, they are a linear pair. So any of those would be linear. All right, complement. Okay, two angles that add up to 90 degrees. So if one angle's 10, what is the complement to that? Well, what are we going to do? 90 minus 10, so we get 80. If we're finding the supplement, we're going to do 180 minus 10, so we get the 170. All right, if one angle is 40, what's the complement? Well, we're going to do 90 minus 40, so we get 50. If we're going to find the supplement, we're going to do 180 minus 40, so we're going to get 140 degrees. Now you do the same thing even if you have just an x value. So what do we start with? The complement would be 90 minus, and what do we have to do? Take the x away. We don't know what x is, so we're actually going to leave it. 90 minus x. All right, then we have 180 minus x. All right, I only have a few minutes to get to the rest of this. So what is the complement of E? The complement of E is going to be 90 minus something. And notice I'm putting parentheses in here, so we're going to do 7x minus 12. This is the most common question marked wrong on your test. Remember to distribute, so it's going to be 90 minus 7x, and a negative times a negative is going to be plus 12. So 90 plus 12 is 102 minus 7x. So you're going to have to actually leave this as 102 minus 7x. All right, on to our last problem for today is finding out the angle measure here. So if an angle measure is 12 degrees more than half the measure of its supplement. All right, I like to say angle measure, and we don't know what that angle measure is, so I call that x. Now this word is in math just means an equal sign. And they say that one of the angles is x, and then if we're talking about so we have x, and then the other one is 12 more. So it means we are going to add 12 to 1/2 the measure of its supplement. So 1/2, and what did we find out 2 screens ago when we don't know that angle measure? And we're talking about the supplement. The supplement would be 180 minus x. So that's what we're going to have to put in here is 180 minus x. All right, go ahead and distribute this out. So 1/2 of 80 is 90. 1/2 times -1 is going to be negative 0.5x plus 12. So I'm going to add 0.5x. So it becomes 1.5x. And 90 plus 112, what's that? 102. And now if we take 102 and divide by 1.5, we get x is going to be 68. So the measure of the angle is 68 degrees. All right, good luck on your homework assignment. Lesson 1-6 should be all set up and in your big ideas online to go ahead and try.